Hey, everybody. This is Donna, founder of Yoga in My School and the host of the Yoga in My School podcast. Welcome, welcome, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcast provider. I'm so glad you've chosen to spend a little bit of time with us today, with our community. And I would like to request, I don't always do a request, but I would like to request that if you find today's information enjoyable, valuable, all those kind of things, that you would share it with a friend. That you just kind of do that push little share and find somebody in your circle that you think this would be valuable for them. Please do that. It is like gold and means absolutely the world if you could share likes, reviews, all that kind of stuff. But today, let's just focus on sharing, shall we? Especially as it is the month of February and all is going well in the sharing love and heart openers and all those kind of things type world that many of us yoga teachers tend to develop lesson plan themes around at this time of year. But today we're doing one of my favorite projects and themes. It is yoga for literacy. And I'm talking with a local lady in my own neighborhood. We're going to be chatting with Robyn Snow about her Read Along with Robyn program that you can find on YouTube. And will be linked in the show notes below and all that kind of stuff. But she started Read Along with Robyn during the pandemic, and she'll tell us all the goodness that is happening with that. But I've watched and thoroughly enjoyed Read Along with Robyn because I fully endorse and have taught for many years the importance of combining literacy with yoga and kinesthetic learning, all those kind of good things. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Robyn Snow. Hey, Robyn.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here.
How are you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. Now, people might be confused if they're watching and they're looking at your backdrop going, I was so sure that Donna lived in Canada. And February in Canada does not involve palm trees and beaches. No, it does not.
It does not. That is for sure. This is my attempt at pretending like it's warm. It's tropical in my living room.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. So can you tell our community your story? Like, how did you get to be where you are right
now? Yeah, it's a bit of a funny one, actually. Obviously, I own Glow Yoga Kids here in Edmonton. And we're kind of a mobile business. So we go around and we teach in daycares and schools and do birthday parties and events and sports and all that fun stuff. But I was not the original owner. So the original owner, as you know, Donna, was Vanessa Pouliot. And she started Glow Yoga Kids. I think she started the idea in like 2011, but actually came to fruition in 2012. So we're actually in our 10th year, which is crazy. And yeah, she had started, she was mostly doing schools and having a lot of success with that. And when I started back in 2016, I started after my 200-hour teacher training. We kind of launched our daycare program and a bunch of other stuff and kind of expanded out from there. And the way that I got the job was a little bit funny. I obviously did yoga, like I did yoga from a younger age, probably high school, which is still a lot earlier than a lot of people of my generation started yoga. So I feel really blessed to have started it at, in that age group. And so I did yoga and I loved it. And I was on and off for years. And then I decided, finish school and went traveling and lived abroad for a while. And I did so many jobs, like it's crazy, like so many jobs. And, a lot of them involved kids or business or, kind of just everything in between. And so when I finally came back to Edmonton, I did my 200-hour teacher training. I was looking for work and I was like, okay, I got to find something that kind of combines everything that I've done in the past. So kids, yoga, business, all of those things. And so I saw Glow Yoga Kids online and I reached out to Vanessa and I was like, I'll even just hand out water bottles, like whatever you want. Like, I don't mind. I just want to I want to be mentored by you. And she was super busy at the time. It took a couple months and persistence on my part. And finally, I got hired, and the rest is history. She mentored me. We grew the business together. And then just before the pandemic, I took it over so that she's actually moved to the Dominican now. So she is somewhere where there is beaches and palm trees, luckily for her. So yeah, and then since then, it's been my pleasure to teach and watch kids grow and learn. And I still can't believe it's my job, because it's such a passion of mine. It's so fun and amazing. And you know that. You obviously have done it for years, so you know what it's all about. But I'm so happy that it's something that I get to do every day.
Well, and it is the dream for many people. How do I take this hobby or these interests, these passions of mine, and make it into a career? And
Yes.
and that is that's a challenge. So kudos, congratulations that you've been able to live that dream. Right?
Yeah, it really worked out. I feel like divine timing. You know, all the things that I had done prior to that point really just led me to the place. And then obviously taking over Glow, it was just like unfolded kind of naturally. And I feel very blessed.
Fantastic. So tell us about all of this Read Along with Robyn. What is this about?
Yeah. So you kind of mentioned the pandemic part, and that's kind of where it all started. During the pandemic, it was really hard for me, and it was really hard for Glow just as a company. Yoga took quite the hit, which is really sad because it's so needed, especially during these times. But we were really distanced, like me and all my team were really distanced from all of the kids that we usually teach, and just that connection piece. It was a rough time. And so especially during that first 3 months where we're kind of in, complete shutdown in 2020, I wrote a children's book, which was fulfilled a lifelong dream of mine to write a children's book. And so I wrote the book, and I kind of was working with that. And I wrote my second book at the beginning of 2021. I was really like diving into this world of being an author. And it was through that I kind of connected to all of these groups on Facebook, all of these author and illustrator groups, and kind of connecting to these other really amazing authors. It's funny, I was writing an article for our blog, Shine On, and it was about literacy and movement. Because for me, for many years, I've always incorporated books into my yoga classes, and kind of used that as a tool to teach something, or to teach through the book, or combine that movement and literacy, as you said, together. And so I was kind of thinking about it, and I was like, oh, I'm reading all these authors and I'm interviewing them for our blog. Wouldn't it be amazing to have something where I can lift all of these authors up, because they were going through a similar struggle of like making sure their book was getting out there and reaching out to people. And I was like, a way of building them up, and also giving all of the kiddos that I'm not seeing, something educational and free to do during these times where we're kind of stuck inside. So on top of my passion for like kids and yoga and education and literacy, I just love building up other people in the community. And so that was essentially how the series was born. And so now every Friday we share this story and yoga along, where we kind of turn all of the books that we get from these authors into a yoga and mindfulness and movement experience for kiddos, and slowly building our little online community. So it's been really fun.
Very cool. So that kind of brings me to how do you pick the books? Like you say you're connecting with other authors. So are most of them like self-published books, or are some of them like, really well-known books like Brown Bear? Like what is kind of your determining factor? And this is the perfect book for Read Along with Robyn.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the tricky part with kind of the really well-known books is you have to be able to get a hold of those authors, which is a really big struggle, because as you know, like copyright is a big thing. So sharing books that are really, really popular, where I haven't reached out to the author or made that connection, or have had them essentially agree to it, that's just not something that we've been able to really do. But the big thing for me was, again, I had interviewed all these authors for a blog. That was kind of how it started. I interviewed them for this blog. I wanted some other authors' perspectives on like learning through movement and that kind of combination. And it was through that shared belief amongst me and these other authors that I was like, this would be kind of a great series to start. And, I know all these authors, they can send me the books. I'd already learned so much about them and their books and their offerings and all the other stuff that they do. Like, run the gamut. Like you think about an author and you're like, oh, that's their main job. Like they had so many other jobs and things that they were doing and so many things that they were doing in the community to support people. I just was in awe and totally in love with all of these authors and all of their books. And so, yeah, that's kind of how it started. I was like, hey, do you guys think you want to, donate a book to me so that I can, put it on our channel and get it out there? And they were like, absolutely. And so from there, the biggest thing for me is, again, supporting local authors, supporting authors that, maybe don't have that giant audience yet and are looking for more people to see their work, right? And so right now, what I do is I typically reach out on those groups that I'm a part of. I think there's 160 groups on Facebook that I'm a part of, that I just reach out to different authors. I'm like, hey, would you be interested? I take a look at their book, their story, and then we just go from there. And I love being able to turn them into this kind of movement and fun, but also educational experience. And obviously, if the books have a message, even better, like a kind of undertone, it's the best. Yeah.
You can combine ethics, movement, literacy. You're like, ding, ding.
Yeah,
ding.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Now you mentioned, as you were telling us a little bit of your story, that you have written a couple of books.
Yeah.
And you've written 2 books, and you call them the Yoga Adventure Series. So can you tell us a little bit about your books and, the process of writing and becoming an author and all of that?
Yes. Oh my goodness. It was a lot more challenging than I thought it was going to be. I had spent it's super funny. When I was a little kid, I had written a book for school, and I still have it somewhere. It was this book about this little girl who loved writing so much that she didn't focus on anything else in her life. And her parents were like, you need to be better in school, like you need to do better in math and all these things. And they took away all of her pens and paper for writing. So she started writing on her arms and like covering it up with sleeves and stuff. And then obviously they found out and they were like, oh, we're so sorry. Long story short, is like this beautiful message. But I wrote this as a child because I was so into writing. And I was often that child that was a bit distracted and didn't do the best in school or wasn't that organized. So, obviously through the years and through the things that I've done, it kind of got lost or, I was busy with other stuff. And I was really actually grateful, believe it or not, for the space that the COVID kind of pandemic gave me in order to write the books. And the platform, obviously, of having Glow Yoga Kids. And now I had an actual story to tell, something kind of the combination of the yoga and mindfulness into the story. I was like, this is perfect. This is something that I could do easily. So 2020, I fulfilled that dream. And I started with a yoga adventure through space. And the intention behind the series in general, and obviously there's only 2 books right now, but my hope is to make it a full kind of, continuous series. But my intention behind the books was for it to be a jumping off point for further education. And so I based the books on elements of the Alberta education curriculum. So that it could be a tool in the classroom, in a daycare setting, wherever, with parents, with their kiddos, so that, it could be that kind of initial point of combining literacy and movement together so that the kids are kind of really getting into it before, they further teach, right? So before, when I was kind of writing them, I set up a lot of focus groups of parents, educators, other authors. And that's where I kind of got a lot of the ideas of okay, what kind of things do you think would be good to add into this if I want it to be a tool for education? So that led me to adding a glossary at the back of the book with all of the terms, science terms and yoga terms. and furthered educational resources. That kind of added into the yoga along part of the book, where each book comes with a QR code that the kids can then essentially read and do the yoga along with myself, which is another part that kind of led into the yoga adventure series, the Read Along with Robyn series on YouTube. Yeah, so that's kind of where that all started. And then the process of actually writing the book didn't take that long to write. It was the editing and the making sure it was sized properly and like getting it into all of these different areas like Amazon, and just that was that, and continues to be a very more challenging on me, because the creative side, I was like, oh, I have so many ideas, it just rolls off the tongue. But it was the kind of process of getting it to where I needed it to be so that people could actually purchase it was probably the hardest part. But yeah, so that's kind of the overall gist of everything.
Right, and the one is about space, and the other one is as a jungle story. Right?
Yeah, it's about the Amazon, the rainforest.
It was like, I think it's the Amazon. Yes. So I totally get where you're coming from. When I wrote Once Upon a Pose, I was doing very much the same thing, but that was just in 2008. Right. But working with the curriculum, wanting it to be able to be useful to teachers and parents who are homeschooling. And it's like, okay, and how do we bring yoga now as something more than just health or phys ed?
Right. Yeah. Right? Yeah, absolutely. That's I feel like I've been preaching that a lot lately, because I do often get that response from parents, from teachers. They're like, oh, this is just fun, it's just physical, or they like want us to really like, every time it has to be this many poses or whatever. And for me, it's more than just the poses. It's more than just that physical aspect. There's so many other things that go into yoga, and obviously, with the book and working in schools as well, that kinesthetic aspect, the physical learners, the more that you combine, the more kids you're going to reach, and the more they're going to be capable of kind of accessing that information that they might not have just by reading it or just by seeing it or what have you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I always really love when I'll go into a classroom and somebody's like, yay, the yoga's here. And all of a sudden you start doing, the science curriculum. Or I had one young lad, grade 3, he looked at me and went, hey, that's math. And I was like, one.
Don't.
It's okay.
Totally.
We're just playing yoga. That's all we're doing. And just like putting in all of these other curriculum objectives. And then people are like, wow, that's a little bit more than my adult yoga class that I go to for the physical benefits and the emotional. There's all of those, plus it like fits into the curriculum.
All the educational benefits, absolutely. Yeah. And I feel like, because it's fun, people assume that it can't be educational. But I'm like, it is, it's better that it's fun, because then they actually want to do it. Yes. Right? There's a larger attention span when you're playing a yoga game that combines math than just like sitting down and trying to do a math problem, right? And all the same benefits plus more, right?
Exactly. Absolutely. Exactly. Yep. And just for our listeners, if you are listening to this and if you're intrigued by this topic and you're not exactly sure how that works, there are a number of episodes in the archives about yoga for literacy. And I'm going to be having a few more guests coming up in the not so distant future of all kinds of different ways of how to elaborate yoga so that it's more than just your health curriculum, which is kind of where it often gets pigeonholed into. So yeah, it's more, people, it's more.
Definitely.
All right. Now with your yoga books, you did something really fun. You have these yoga book buddies. You have a toucan and an alien, and they're adorable. But kind of tell me a little bit about why you wanted to have some yoga book buddies, and kind of the process of taking that book into a 3D object that kids could then connect with.
Yeah, absolutely. It wasn't actually something that I thought about before, like when I wrote the book. That being said, I did have and you could call it still a book buddy, inside the book. So on that, 2D plane, the first book was the alien, and I had him kind of like showing up on all of the pages as like kind of a guide, I guess you could say. So there's kids in the book and they're all doing the poses and it's going through all of the actions. And every few pages, this alien guy kind of pops up with some questions and some fun facts. And the big thing, the reason that I added him was, one, to spark curiosity and to start a conversation. So obviously, the purpose of having it being educational, I wanted it not to just be, here's the information. I wanted the kids to actually be able to be like, here's a question. What do you think about that? What do you think happens? How do you think astronauts walk in space, for example? And just kind of, open it up to that educational conversation. And so I kind of incorporated him throughout. He's at the beginning of the book and he's kind of telling, the kids what they need to bring. So in our instance, bring a blanket, bring a pillow for the end. Bring a friend if, or a partner, if you have one, to help you with the yoga. And I had written at the beginning, bring a partner or a stuffy if you don't have one, if you don't have a partner. And my intention behind that was so, they could do some partner poses just with one of their animal friends. And then after I published it, I was like, it'd be really great to have something that they could actually participate with, something that they could do that with. And I was like, of course, the alien from the book would be fantastic. So I reached out to a local company, again, supporting local, building them up. I reached out to a local company called A&K Creations, and they do these super adorable little crocheted stuffed animals. And I just sent her some pictures of the alien, and I was like, do you think you'd be able to replicate this in 3D? And she exceeded my expectations. It's so adorable. I agree. I was like beyond happy when I saw the first little template of the alien. Yeah, and he's got like wires in his body. So he's a little bit moldable. So he can, kind of get into some of the poses with you and for some of those partner poses as well, which are so integral to just having, that connection piece, even if it is with kind of an inanimate object. And then obviously from there, the second book, I was like, well, we got to have one for the Amazon as well, right? He's throughout the book and he's there kind of giving you those hot topics and fun facts. And so I kind of, again, I sent her the picture of the toucan. I was like, what do you think? And he's a little less yoga-y because he's a little more round, but he's still able to do a lot. So I was happy with that as well. And it's just fun. I think it's just fun to be able to be like, hey, I actually have, like, this is a real character now. I actually have it in real life. And it can kind of exist outside of, actually, sorry, I'll just kind of run on this random tangent as well. I had a lady, an adult woman, no children in her life whatsoever. And she bought 5 of the aliens. And she was just like obsessed. She was like, what's his backstory? What's his name? She was just loved this alien. And she said it connected her to her inner child. And so I even feel like just having, even for adults, just having something like that, a little tangible thing to kind of cuddle and be with, it's so beneficial. So yeah, that's kind of the story behind them.
Fantastic. Well, and I actually love that the toucan doesn't have a yoga body.
Right.
Because any body is a yoga body. So yes. The toucan does yoga too. So you can.
He does. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Like yoga is accessible. So
it is. Yeah, doesn't matter what you can be an alien or a toucan and still do yoga.
Yeah, very cool. All right. So how do people find, other than typing in Read Along with Robyn, but how do people find you in the social media world?
Yeah, so obviously our website would be a great place to start. So we're glowyogakids.com, and all of our resources are on there. So our YouTube, our yoga adventure series, and kind of everything else that we do as well, all of our programs. On top of that, obviously our YouTube channel. So at Glow Yoga Kids, that's also, we can be found on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and all of those things at that as well. And then our books are also available at your local Indigo and Chapters, and also on Amazon and some of the local stores as well, kind of some random ones that you might come across here in Edmonton. So yeah, I would say that's probably the majority.
Fantastic. Now, can people order direct from you? Because I, as an author myself, I know when people order from me, I make more money. So thank you when you order from me, not Amazon. When you order from Amazon, I make 25 cents. It's not very much money. And if you didn't know that because you weren't an author, you're like, oh, I'll just buy it off of Amazon. If you can ever buy a book as close to the author as possible, the author appreciates it so much. But if you can't, if you just want the book, please just buy the book. I totally get that.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Can they buy it direct? Like, can people buy it direct from you?
Absolutely, they can. I have a lot of stock. So absolutely, they can buy it directly from me. I mean, we're obviously with everything these days, it's been a little bit of a challenge to get out there and peddle the book in a physical way. So, you know, like trade shows, Donna and I actually, we met at a trade show. So yeah, like any kind of trade shows or markets and stuff like that, it's a little bit rough these days. So I haven't been able to get out to them, but you can absolutely just order straight through me by email, through our website, whatever, message me and I will get you one for sure.
Fantastic. Yes. Yeah. People are, I always find people are sometimes shocked. They're like, oh, I bought your book off Amazon. And I'm like, and you live 2 doors down.
Right.
I would have dropped.
I will sign it and deliver it to you if you order it straight from me. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, Robyn, it's been a delight chatting with you this evening across the city, as it were.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been lovely to chat with you as well. I'm so glad we're able to do this and just chat about, honestly, just the things that I love. I could talk about it all day.
Well, likewise. And I feel, you know, it's like talking to another version of myself. Is like, okay, support local, kids, movement, literacy, curriculum, learning, social emotional. It's like, okay, business, all these things. And I know that many in our community are likewise engaged in their local village, as it were.
Yeah.
And building up in the same way. So thank you very much for your time and your insights and sharing your story and success.
Amazing. Thank you so much again. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. It was awesome.
All right. Thanks for listening and or watching and all that kind of stuff. And like I said at the very beginning, if you could share, that would mean the world to us. No, definitely to me, as it helps the podcast grow and all of that stuff. And if you want more information about Glow Yoga Kids, you know how to get in touch with Robyn. All right. Until the next time, you guys. Bye.